Right here in this very room with the rest of you, hopefully. I'll be covering raising kids in a world of Pop-Tarts and pizza. And basically what's happening in our world today is that our children are overstressed, they are obese, they have learning disabilities, they have autism and ADHD and all kinds of things that are happening to them, and people say, we don't know why. But we actually do know why. There's a really good reason for it. We have a lot of toxins in our environments. We eat too much processed foods. We let our kids eat sugar, sugar, and more sugar. And then we wonder why they bounce off the walls at school and get in trouble. So what we're going to go over next month is how to avoid those types of things, or how at least to incorporate some good behaviors into our children and take out some bad behaviors, replace them with the good. So we'll be talking about toxic chemicals and how to remove them from our environment, our immune system, and how to create a healthy one. How to get our key missing nutrients into our children, because we know they're picky and they don't like to eat all of their food and broccoli and whatnot, right? How to limit your toxic intake while pregnant, because that's the most important part, is where we start with our children when we're pregnant and what we're putting into our bodies, whether it's actually helping or hurting. And then again, sugar, sugar, and more sugar. We'll go over that. And then fast food. And I'll let you guys know some information that'll give you an option to giving your kids fast food. And we call it the fastest food available. And it's really healthy. So I hope to see you guys back here next month. And I appreciate you giving me the time to talk tonight. Thanks.
Thank you, Kimberly. Very awesome. She'll be doing a great job next month, I know for sure. She's awesome. So, our next presenter, who's going to actually introduce Lisa, is Lucinda Jorgensen. I asked Lucinda how I should address her or title her, and she said, oh, I don't know. And then I said, well, if you were a tree, what would you be? And she said, I would be a cherry blossom tree, just because everybody loves them right now. So Lucinda is going to go ahead and introduce Lisa.
Are here tonight because of Seed Speaks. You've heard of the talk tonight because of Seed Speaks? Any? How many of you are here because you have met Lisa, been part of her classes, sessions? Okay. It's my honor this evening to introduce Lisa Solterbeck. She is a licensed clinical social worker and an intuitive empath. She's working on a doctorate in transpersonal psychology. She's a co-owner of Journeys, a Center for Your Soul, which is a holistic healing center here in Salem, where she has her private practice and does one-on-one counseling as well as group work. She also leads retreats nationally, or internationally, and locally. Well, let me tell you about Lisa that I've known her for several years. I met her in one of her healing circles. I continue to attend her healing circles. They have helped me transform my life over the last 2 years. What I adore about Lisa is the fact that she looks outside the box. She does things that she's just intuitively led to do to help us transform, to help us shine love on little parts of ourselves that may not have had that much love before. She tailors everything uniquely to the individual. Lisa also has impressed me because she does that in her own life. Going beyond, stepping beyond her little comfort zone. This evening, if you have any questions, you can think of any, hold them towards the end, and she's looking forward to answering all of your questions at the end. She is also an author of a soon-to-be-published book titled Journey to Balance and an Intentional Path. Help me welcome Lisa Solterbeck, A Practical Path to Healing. Lisa Solterbeck.
Hello. So I want to pose a question to you right away. And my first question is, do you ever have moments in your life where you feel like it's scary to show up? Like me and my public speaking issue. You know, I think so much in our lives, we have moments where we have a boss that we don't want to deal with and we're like, God, I don't want to go to work. Or we have to go home and we have to ask our partner to do something we don't want to do. Anybody in here know that feeling? And it's so hard to be present. Well, what's really important with healing is you have to be present in the moment. So I want to process this with you and look at why we have such a hard time showing up. Now, I've had a couple experiences. I always like to kind of watch before I have a speaking event. I always kind of say, okay, Spirit, show me the way. Because, I get scared for these things. And I say, okay, show me what I need to do. And this one, I know we're going to go to Hawaii and we're going to have a presentation coming up. And I thought, okay, we'll just use this one for the same process and we'll see how this unfolds. And I had a couple incidences where I noticed I was having a hard time showing up. I need to scoot back here. And one of them that had happened to me was my sweet son asked his partner to marry him. And he says, Mom, can I come to the house? And can I have this big engagement party at the house? And I'm like, okay, let's do it. I was so excited, I couldn't hardly stand it. And we planned, and we had this whole big thing planned for him. And what we did was we decorated the whole house like Christmas. And because she has a little thing for Christmas. So the whole house was all set up, and we had probably 40 people in the house waiting in a horseshoe. And as she came in the door, which we told her that he had to help serve for me and my sweetie on Valentine's Day. So she comes in the door, and her grandmother and her mother are standing at the door, and they escort her in. And Taylor is standing there, and I'm watching everybody, and everybody's so wiggly and shaky because this moment is pretty intense. You can imagine. You got 40 people watching you getting ready to propose. And you can hear the words in the background. Everybody's like, oh my God, he's nuts. Is he sure she's going to say yes? All this fear and anticipation. People were pacing back and forth. Everybody was so scared. And as he brought her in, I popped on the song Train, Went Marry Me. And if anybody knows it, just, And he drops to the floor and asks her to marry him. And everybody started to weep. And it was a beautiful moment. It was one of those moments where you thought, oh my God, how could we want to be anywhere else in the world but to be in this moment and share this with my son? I had another moment this last week. My uncle died. And we've been really blessed in our family to have good men in our lives. And he was just a special guy. He was kind of the guy that would wiggle you in just the right way that everybody was like, ooh, that's awkward, I like you. You know, you wanted to be close to him. There was something about him that was just fun and playful. He would always break the rules. And in my family, everybody is kind of together. We try to do things right and be good folks. But he would just break the line just enough to make you smile. I appreciated that about him. And we had this funeral come up this last weekend, and Tori and I were in the car, and my sons were with me, and we were getting ready, and we pull into the parking lot, and the boys, you could see them getting wiggly a little bit, still as men. We all kind of wiggled. And we thought, oh boy, here we go. And as you knew, you would start to meet the people as they would come up. It was a little scary because you knew you had an ache in your heart, and when you saw your family members, that ache would meet theirs. And you'd start to feel nervous, and you'd want to cry, and it was like, oh my God. But I loved him so much, all I wanted to do was show up fully present. The difference now compared to before is I've learned to be present in those moments. Even now, even though I'm a little shaky with you guys, I want to be here with you. I want to give a gift to you. And I don't want to be what we would call in psychology disassociated. I don't want to leave. I want to be present. And those moments are something that you have to work towards. That's not something that we naturally do. Just to raise a hand, who in here has felt themselves kind of leave their body when they got scared? Right? We all do it. It might be those moments when you're getting ready to go do a hard conversation that you don't want to do. What I encourage you to do is to kind of consider this process and understand that healing is really learning to love deeply. We, as a society, have been taught not to love deeply. We've been taught to run, to be afraid, to be cautious, to distract ourselves, to not be present. We have to be present and in the moment to love deeply. Sometimes I find where my career is leading me, and sometimes I do weddings, or I'm starting to do this public speaking, and I'm finding more ways to love deeply. And that's what floats my boat. And that's why I'm here with you guys today, to teach you how to be present so that you realize that it's a gift. Healing is not a bad thing. It's a rebirth. I even was thinking how ironic it is. This is the spring equinox. This is about new beginnings. We're getting ready to let go of the old and to step in something new. And it's such an honor to be able to do this. Now, one thing I want to show you, let's see how I am with this multitasking thing. Let's see if it will work with me. I want to talk, first of all, or we won't say this. Tori, you want to go up there and look at for me? I want to talk about, there's 3 components that we need to get in alignment. Okay, we're going to talk about the mind, the body, and the environment. Now, this is a challenge because the mind, body, and environment sometimes, well, we'll get into this in detail, but the mind can get really chaotic. Anybody get racing thoughts in here? I hate those. And I'm sure you've all sat in front of a therapist or asked somebody, how do you shut these stupid things off, right? We're going to talk about that specifically, and we'll get you on track there. The body, your body's actually a compass, and it's trying to tell you some specific things. So I'm going to show you how to really understand it. And then the environment, how to change the environment that is conducive to healing. So my goal is tonight is to be able to really hit each one of those so that you understand how to go home and do this for yourself. We're always here at Journeys to help you in the process, but I want you to know how to do this for yourself because our goal here is not to create codependency. We want to teach people to be whole and complete themselves, and everybody's capable to do this. So we're going to see if we can attempt to show you how to do that tonight, or today. So can I get you to hold this for me? Let's see. I need some fancy props for you all. Okay. There is some research that says that emotions are literally only held in the body for 90 seconds. So if I do something that scares you, Kim, what will happen is you will have an emotional charge. You all know that? You come up, we stand up here on stage and we're like, oh God, right? That first moment. So if we think about that in the process of healing, what do you think most of our lives is, you know, in like therapy, we teach people, talk about your feelings. Anybody feel like they've talked themselves to death? Okay? Or journal. You're like, oh dear God, if I write one more journal, I'm going to burn it. Okay? You know, there's so many things that I think traditional psychology teaches us to use. If you do this, it'll feel better. I find that sometimes those processes actually limit our ability to get it out. I want to teach us to go much quicker, to get the pain out quicker. The research is that it's 90 seconds of trauma in your body. But what do we do when we're scared? We hold on. So the goal is actually to not let it out by journaling, right? Or talking. We want to do that. Now the way to do that is by feeling it completely. Now what happens is in the brain, you're going to actually be thinking. Now if you're thinking, guess what you're doing? You're blocking it, right? And we create all these blockages in the mind to make it so we don't have to fully be present because it hurts, it's too big, we think we can't handle it, it's overwhelming. So what we want to do is open the mind in a way that that energy flows through. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So remember the 90-second rule. Can you all tolerate 90 seconds? 90 seconds. That's all we have to get you through. Because after that happens, what actually keeps the pain in is your thoughts. 100%. So it's the story you tell yourself. It's the way you look at the situation. Sometimes we look at the problem. I always say it's like looking at the bark. If I keep looking at it, guess what's going to happen to me? I'm going to feel sick. I'm not going to feel good. So it's important to look away from the bark and look towards your goals, but we become obsessive with the problem. Okay? So we're going to work on that one as well. It's really important to remember tonight, no one is broken. No one. Everybody is complete and whole. If you believe you're broken, guess what you'll feel? Any ideas? Okay? So it's this idea that if I look at the problem, I become the problem. What does it feel like when you judge somebody? Pretty unpleasant inside, doesn't it? There's actually a law, a universal principle, that says with every action, there is a reaction. So if I have hate towards another person, what will I feel? I'll feel guilt. That's going to cause me burdens. Our goal is to take action steps that don't cause burdens within our own lives. We hold pain in rather than let it flow. The reason we do this is because we think we're incapable of handling this energy coming through, so we hold on to it like this, okay? So if I can hold it all down, then I'll be successful in life. How do you think this looks? A little weird and awkward, right? So if you want to be open and able to do what you're supposed to do in your life, you have to be willing to let this energy flow through you. So we're going to work on understanding how to have that happen. And once again, this idea that everybody is capable. Now, this is a touchy one, but nobody is a victim in my mind. Now, I'll tell you why I say that. If you believe you're a victim, how are you ever going to heal? You can't. So it's really important that what we do is we take some bold steps in taking personal responsibility. And responsibility means to take action, that you're capable of taking action. Everybody is capable. Now, there's points where we feel like we have no choice, where we can't do anything to make a change, that we don't know what to do. That's usually because the wound is limited in the mind. You ran out of ideas. Well, your ideas come from what you've been taught that already gave you that poopy experience. We want new experiences. We want positive things to happen. And the only way to do that is to open that mind up. Okay. So, whoops, I went the wrong way. The opposite. Next one.
But you got it to move.
I know it. Technical difficulties going on. Okay. Whatever you resist or cling to will persist, and whatever you be with will complete itself. This is key. You must master this. So, this idea of resisting, I always think of the idea of like going down a slide. You ever seen a little kid getting ready to go down a slide? She's like, woohoo! And they just have a great time and just slide right on down. And then there's the other kids that are like, no, Mommy, I can't do it. And they panic and they hold on and they say, it's too big, I can't do that. That is the process that we have to stop. If you are resisting life, you are actually saying, I can't heal. I have to hold my pain in. Okay? Clinging. If you're holding on to, it has to be this partner. It has to be this job. If I don't have this happen, I'm not going to be okay. So we're going to look at this idea of saying, do you really? Well, honestly, we don't have control over that. That's an illusion in itself. We have no control over what's coming to us. We have control over the way we respond to it. So we want to look at that as well. There's tangible things we cling to and intangible things we cling to. So the tangible ones, like I was mentioning, like a relationship. I have to have enough money. I have to have a home. I have to have things be a certain way. I need you to act a certain way. And then there's intangible things. And this is where I find people get in trouble. It's more, I need love to look like this. I need you to act a certain way. If you can't let love in, you're stopping yourself from evolving. If a plant's going to rise, doesn't it need the sun? Doesn't it need water? So if you are saying it has to look a certain way, you're limiting love. And our goal is to ultimately get to the place that we do not limit anything. Because the universe wants us to have pure potential. All possibilities. So that's where we're going to shoot for. Flowing water is stagnant. Okay, let's think of this idea of water that circulates. If we have stagnant water, it gets yucky. It sits, it stews, it actually gets bacteria, it's not good. The flowing water that is circulating allows things to move forward, and it cleanses, and it shifts, and it changes, and it moves things, and adjusts things. So we want our emotions to be like water in a pipe. Your body is actually the pipe. The water is what you want to coach through, and you got to hold it in your body. Most of us don't hold our energy in our body. We leak. We try to make things look a certain way. We try to say that I can't deal with that behavior, and then we yell and we scream and we project. All of those are ways that we leak. So we're going to work on that. Suffering loops. Oh, my little holder. Okay. So, suffering loops. In this process, okay, we have patterns that happen over and over and over again. So this is where you're like, how in God's name did I date the same guy? Seriously, I just went through this with her. How did I do it again? The looping patterns that happen in our life. Now the reason that happens, looping patterns are really significant, and I think a lot of times we go, I know I used to do this. I used to think, I'm bad. Oh, I did it again, I'm such an idiot. I feel so stupid, how can I do that? I knew better this time. I'd be so frustrated. The thing that actually started to help me heal my suffering loops was I stopped believing that I was an idiot. And I started to say, there must be something I'm supposed to learn here. So there's a lesson in looping. So if you pay attention, a looping pattern is very similar to a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're trying to either okay, so here's one of my old ones. I felt not good enough. And so because I felt not good enough, I was going to prove to the world I was going to be a really good worker. And I was going to show that I was good enough. And then I did it, and I started to deplete, and I was so exhausted. I'm like, oh my God, I hope somebody wants to take care of me, but I got to be a giver. I got to be a giver. And I overgave and overgave, and then I hit this point, and I go, I'm empty. You're not there. Why? Why did you abandon me? Self-fulfilling prophecy. The way to change these loops is to acknowledge that when you get to the weak spot, you have to do something different. This is what we say in neuroscience, that you have to do something that you've never done before. Now, I know we're always trying to figure it out, right? I always say figure it out is figuring God out. Saying, I got it. No worries, I don't need any help. The goal is to say, I'm open to look at a new way, and I don't know what it is yet. Because you want to remember, your mind is holding on to what you've been taught. We're looking for something that you've never seen before. So to do something different, you actually turn the self-fulfilling prophecy the opposite direction. You would say, I'm empty. I'm going to go love myself. So you would put you first rather than others first. And then you would say, I'm going to get so freaking full, I can't stand it. And then you get so awesome full that you're so happy that it starts to bubble out of you, and you're like, yes, I have a lot to give, and it's so rewarding. And then you get right back to the beginning, and you go, I get to go fill myself up again. So this whole process of realizing that I count, and I want to just be so full of love that it bubbles over to other people, that's the blessing. It doesn't deplete you. If you pay attention to the things in our lives, we're usually getting depleted. We burn out. So situations like maybe you're at work and you're like, I'm so sick of this. Therapists get something called compassion fatigue, where they're like, oh, I don't want to deal with this today. And people always ask me, Lisa, why don't you burn out? Because what I'm doing is, I hate to say it, it's not for all you all. It's because I love doing what I'm doing. and I'm finding me in each one of you. And that fills my soul. And as I get full, you realize that there's more that you want. And hopefully it's contagious. Hopefully being around me will feed your soul because you're like, wow. Not because I'm saying, here, let me compromise myself and make you okay. Because that's codependency. I don't want to do that, and I'll burn out, and I won't be there for you in the end. That's where abandonment issues come from. So if any of y'all have abandonment issues in your family, it's usually because you have good intentions to be there, but then you run on empty. And then you have nothing left to get, and then you go, oh my God, I failed. I did it again. There's a suffering loop. Okay, addictions. Addictions is a pattern that I want you to look at this. This could be food, alcohol, drugs, Facebook, porn. There's a million different addictions. Or, this is the biggie. This was a big one for myself, and I think we all have to look at this, is obsessive thinking. Okay? And I think this is an epidemic we got going on in our world, is obsessive thinking, where you can't stop thinking of the problem. You keep looking at it, and you can't put it away. So that's my metaphor about looking at the barf. Okay? Stop looking at the barf. So we got to look at it differently. I think it's the Saturday Night Live, I think it was Bob Newhart, and he did a show, and she comes in and sits in front of the therapist and says, oh, I'm having this terrible time. I have this fear of being in a box. And she tells this whole story, and he goes, okay, I'm going to give you a 5-minute session. And he says, stop it! I was like, oh, that's totally true. Because really, that is the worst thing that a therapist could say, but I want to tell you the truth, that's what needs to be said. Because we feed those thoughts. We're going to talk a little bit about illusions and why we create illusions. That's that spinning thought process that's in our head. All right. Let's try switching it here, boss. Look it. I can point it at Tori and she pushes the button. Feels good. Okay, so this is the mind when we are obsessively thinking. And I think it's a pretty good visual because I think it actually shows you what a lot of you might feel like when you can't stop thinking of these things that are so hard. Now, I know on my own, it literally came back to that core wound of not being wanted. So we'll use me as an example. And so anything that I thought would remind me of not being wanted, I would go into this loop. Some of the other ones I hear in my office are, I'm being judged. Nobody really wants me in their place. I'm so ugly. There's nothing good about me. I'm useless. I can't succeed. I'm a failure. So those are just some of those that you might hear in your head. I would say usually all of us have probably about 3 of those to 5, that they're just these core patterns that you can't get past. I remember back in the day when I was trying to find my way, and I found a lot of dead ends in psychology. I found that I couldn't get past stuff. I would take all the psychology classes and I'd go all the trainings, and I couldn't heal. It was weird. I really was running into dead ends. Now I understand it's because Spirit was trying to show me this. I was supposed to find my path on how to help people heal. But in this process, what I found was it's not, the answers to healing is not outside of you. You got to go in. But we don't want to go in. We're scared to death to go in. So we try to figure things out. And we try, and we try, and we try. And like I said earlier, figuring it out is figuring God out. It's like, and when I say God, what I mean to you is something bigger than us. That could be science to you, that could be a certain religion, I don't care, whatever that is to you. It's trying to figure out something bigger than you out. You have to realize, we don't know everything. Science has come to a line, and then we disprove science. And then we come to a line, and we disprove science. So it's consciousness is forever expanding. We're forever growing beings. And so whatever that is for you is what's right for you. But look at that. Are you understanding that you have limits to your noggin? That we have 10% of the capacity of our brain to really understand and process things. So there's more. So if we want our brain to evolve, we have to open it up, not stuff it full of crap. Okay? So I had my dear friend Rylan, he draws pictures. I get these visions. I'm like, oh my God, you gotta draw this. And he drew this for me. And what this is a slum. And there's this pressure. You can actually kind of sense it when you look at the picture. There's a pressure on the mind that's actually pushing the energy down. So this is actually what we do to hold the energy in because we're afraid to let it up. Stories. In the Buddhist principle, they talk about don't put a story around it. Well, I love that because this concept is actually a huge healing piece. The reason we say don't put a story around it is because if you're labeling something, you're limiting it. Okay? So if you're saying, well, I feel that way because my mother did blah, 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 the minute you do that, you're actually stopping yourself from being open because you're saying that's where it came from. One thing we know about the brain doesn't know how to decipher past from present. That's a problem. So if somebody comes up and upsets me, I'm going to instantly have all my memories from my whole lifetime come up at the same time. That's why we overreact. That's why sometimes when you're hanging with a friend and something happens, you're like, oh dear God, I went postal. Why did that happen? Well, it's because that friend reminded you of your father and your brother that acted that way and all your coworkers, and you're like, I can't take it anymore. And I'm like, yes! Because if you can't take it anymore, guess what you're getting ready to do? You're ready to let go and heal. You're ready to wake up. But what do? Oh my God! And they come in my office and they say, I'm falling apart. I'm going to have a nervous breakdown. And I'm like, thank God! Thank God! It's time. And what my job is to help you realize letting go is the gift. You can fall apart. And you're not going to go nuts. I actually think that mental illness totally comes from holding it in. I read a research study and they said most mental illness comes from trying to be strong too long. We need to not be strong. We try to stay in control and think ahead. This was a huge issue for me that I learned through the School of Hard Knocks, so I could give it to you gracefully. For myself, I would always think ahead of the problem. Anybody in here do that? Yeah. I will protect myself no matter what. And you're doing everything you can to try to stay in control, to stop the situation from happening. Guess what the problem is with that? Anybody see why this would limit your healing? Any guesses? Because what you're actually doing is presupposing your map on your future. So everything you're trying to stop, you're actually co-creating. This is the problem. We don't want that. So what you want to do is you want to really get in your body and say, I am willing to live and experience what is. So that means if something comes up that's hard, guess what? It's a gift to teach you to let go. So you have to stop analyzing your future and running ahead of your life to make sure everything's right, to know it's safe. If you're always trying to feel safe, isn't that holding on to a wound? That's what we want to stop. Or we always focus on the past. Some of us in here might always go back to the past and say, this is why I am the way I am. Well, I have a problem with that. Because if you keep identifying yourself, you're limiting yourself. I thought we didn't want to limit ourselves. We want to be pure potentiality. That's what we were created for. We were born to grow, to evolve. If you tell yourself that I am this because of that, you're stuck. So I want you to open your mind to, I'm all possibilities. So I used to be only Lisa Solterbeck, a counselor, because I'm going to prove my worth to everybody. And then I decided, holy crap, this is boring. And I feel silly. And I never feel good enough. And this sucks. And so I realized what I wanted to be was Lisa Solterbeck, somebody who loves people, who realizes that I'm no better than anybody else. And I hate this whole hierarchy crap. And I don't want to do it anymore. And I want to walk with people that I love. And I'm not going to pretend that I don't love them. I'm sick of it. I don't want to do this. And when I started to do that, my practice tripled. I was like, huh, that's so weird. They really like little Lisa. I never thought they would. You know, the little Lisa is the part that will make me human, that will make you relate to me, not the one that tries to be better than you and pretend that I don't have issues. This whole pretending thing, we gotta quit it. Oh, well, this is the biggie. This one I hear limits so many people in their processing. Did you know that you don't have to know why you hurt? Huh, it's the coolest thing. Okay? It's actually a problem. If you believe that you have to know, you're limiting it. Okay? The reason is, there's something in our early childhood called implicit memory. So say you had something happen between 0 and 18 months. Well, your brain doesn't have the capacity to remember. So if that's happened to you, you actually are incapable of remembering, thus you will never let it out if you have to know. If you're spiritual, kind of woo-woo, and you believe in past lives or any of those things, well, you're really screwed then. So there's some real limitations to not having this. And, and there's lots of different angles if you look at that. If you think you have to know, what if you have a family that holds secrets? Anybody have those? Right? And they say, we're not going to tell you that we're sick. But you intuitively know it and you're like crazy inside. Or you have the partner that's going to cheat on you and they don't tell you and you feel crazy inside. If you're one of those people that has to know, you will suffer. I don't want you to suffer. I want you to heal. I want you to be complete. And the only way to do this is to realize that pain is inevitable. Suffering is created. You create suffering by trying to say it has to look like this. It must be like this. It's accepting, it's saying that I can't accept anything other than what I want it to be. You have to accept what is. Why questions? This is a problem for me too. Ugh, why questions? Anybody ever have something that hurts their feelers and then they go, why? Why? What's wrong with me? I've never been good enough. Right? We all do that. The reason we do this is because we're desperately looking at the back of our map to figure out what's wrong with me. Now, if you remember, I told you there's nothing wrong with anybody and everybody's whole and complete. Somebody planted a virus in you, and you believed it. And what happens when a virus runs amok in a computer? Holy crap, right? And then I call Tori and say, Tori, help me! I got a virus! You have to sometimes get somebody on the outside to come in and help you figure out what it is because it's a shapeshifter. Every time you try to get close to it, it moves. So annoying. That's how you know you're playing with an illusion. Because if there's something that you think is a certain way and you go to touch it and it moves, you've been tricked. You're listening to a virus. So, why questions? I want you to be very careful of. If you hear that happening, I want you to stop and go, wait a minute. Not why, what's wrong with me? Why the heck am I doing this? I know that's a shapeshifter. So you shift the why into a practical one, not one that is suffering. Okay? Disassociation, I talked a little bit about that. That's the whole process of leaving your body. We do this when something scares us. So I always like to use the metaphor of having a car accident. When we have something really impactful happen in it, oh, it's us. We leave. We leave our bodies. We step away. Because we're like, holy crap, I'm out, okay? That is a beautiful gift, and I'm so glad you all have this ability to do this, because there's a lot of things that we don't want to remember, right? Those traumatic experiences, a car accident, a major death where you see something terrible happen in front of you. Your mind steps out because it says, oop, I'm not capable to handle this, okay? The ultimate goal is to realize that happens for a reason, but that is not supposed to be permanent. It is something that you're supposed to go back and reunite with. And you can't be whole and complete if you're not willing to reunite with those parts. So, for myself, we'll use me as an example again. So the idea of me wanting to be a counselor was the little girl in me that didn't think she was good enough. So she's going to step into, I'm going to prove that I'm smart. And if I can prove that I'm smart because I have dyslexia and I don't want anybody to think I'm stupid, well then, I'll be good enough. And then the next step. And the next step, and you keep doing this. The goal with it is to say, you know what? I maybe am not the most academic person. It's so funny, I ended up getting almost a doctorate degree, but I didn't realize I was academic. I had to take steps. My whole process of going through school was for me to realize that I had it. Not with a damn degree. That didn't matter. In fact, that's useless to me. That's not what I'm saying. It's about the point that the gift of my degree was that I could. That I didn't have to live in the world that I can't anymore. The I can'ts is where we all get stuck. So I want you to realize you can, but you have to go get those parts. They're not going to come back to you. I had client say to me once, we were talking about shadows, and she says, the shadow is like dirt in the ground, and a shovel is the light. And she goes, don't think that the dirt is going to jump on the shovel. I was like, oh, you're totally right. You have to go in. You got to go into your shadow. You got to go get those parts of yourself that you left behind. And you know what? The shadow, I think we're all like, holy crap, what's in there? I think I'm demon-possessed. It's going to be terrible. You know, and we're so worried it's going to be something so awful. In the shadow is usually your brightest pieces. When somebody hurts us, so like if somebody was horribly raped in an alley, do you think that the predator can take something from that person? I'm going to challenge you that they can. But what happens is we tuck away deep inside ourselves. We leave our bodies, we do whatever we can, but it still is corded. It is connected to you. And if you go deep inside yourself, you can pull those parts back. But what do we say? I don't want to go back into that trauma. I don't want to feel that experience. You have to remember you're not in that moment again. It'll feel like it. And you're going to have 90 seconds of probably hell going back in that space. And it might be in little chunks. We might be 5-minute chunks at a time. But if you go in there and get it, you can literally complete your healing. I didn't think that was possible. In my past history, I thought, oh my God, does anybody really complete it? And I can attest to you today that the things that I have been working on, I am finding are completing themselves. And hopefully you'll be able to watch that with me, that you'll see my life progress. As I stand before you and I get bigger groups and different things like that, you're going to see that I'm changing and evolving with this process because it really works. You don't have to suffer. You don't have to be stuck. You can heal. You can be whole. But you have to go inside and get these parts. Ooh, illusions. Okay. Toy. Okay, let's see if I can do this. I'm not very skilled with toys. So, illusions. This process. Any of you ever feel like you're stuck in the middle of one of those? Can't get out? Okay. Those are fantastic. I used to think, oh my God, it's an illusion, I'm stuck. And as I was trying to get out, I was like, these are horrible. I'm going to die in this thing. I just can't get out. I'm doomed. And you literally go into that kind of attitude, right? This is never going to change. Nothing's going to get different. I am stuck. I've tried every possibility. It's never going to change. What if I told you that the reason you're doing that is actually to trick yourself? You're doing it. That's so screwed, isn't it? That pissed me off when I figured that out. The reason it's a problem is you're actually trying not to be your higher self. Can you imagine why we would do something like that? The reason we do it is because when we were little kids, we were maybe like, Mommy, guess what? I saw a ghost. Oh my God! And they said, don't do that. We're in a Baptist church. That was You know, so, and they'll squish it down and they'll say, don't show that part of you. And you're like, okay, oh my God, I'm bad. And so what I did was I created the illusion that I can't let anybody see that I'm supposed to stand in front of people. I didn't want to even stand in front of anybody like this because I was afraid that they would see this part of me. So I always learned to hide. So my pattern was to hide, not to do anything public, not to be out and about. So illusions are really a trick you're playing on yourself. It's actually a mind thing. It's really awesome. It's a mind way of trying to keep yourself in a story that is not fixable. Okay? Remember, if we go back to the idea that all things are possible, that nothing is permanent. That's another universal principle. Nothing's permanent. Did you know everything dies? It lives? It's a problem. Right? So you have a process you have to do. And if you stick yourself under the ground and you don't allow yourself to blossom, we're in trouble. You're going to eventually die. You'll just cut your life shorter. So you have to allow yourself to come out of this process and not see dead ends. And if you're seeing a dead end, quit looking at the problem. This is the only way to change it. If you're always looking at the barf, you will always feel sick. Suffering, suffering, suffering. So what you have to do is you have to start looking at what you want. So for me, instead of feeling not wanted, I realized that I was actually telling myself I wasn't wanted because I wasn't wanting to be me. So I realized, I gotta get this. And so I do things like this. I show up, and I be a little bit more me. And each time I do that, I realize I'm okay. And then I let a little more love in. And I realize I'm a little more capable. So I start just going towards my dreams, and I stop looking at the barf. Do you all get it? It's the only way out of an illusion. Anybody else in here figured out another way out? You have to do this. You have to start going towards your dreams and stop using the excuse you can't. Because guess what? There's your slum. Anytime you say I can't, it's a trick you're playing on yourself because you're too afraid to take a risk to see who you really are. Because somebody shamed you, somebody made you think you weren't enough, you had self-doubt and you believed it. How's that not listening to the virus? So the other thing that we have to do with our mind is you have to use your mind in a way that organizes things. You notice in this other little happy, this blissful look, that there's warehouses here. You need those. You need to know that sometimes something's bigger than you know how to handle, and you set it on the shelf there. And then you say, but I'm going to go figure out how. You need a shelf. Because we can't do it all at once, right? If I have that example of the rape, that's going to overwhelm me to go in it all at once. And I might actually do something that we call emotional flooding. It's a psychology term, where it can come up too quick, we start to panic, and it overwhelms us, and then we go, I'm never going to therapy again. Okay? Our goal is to break it down in small chunks, but consistently go to the warehouse to see what you need. The other thing is to open the mind. This is why I think like Dalai Lama and all those guys, they're like, oh, Zen, bless their hearts. They're trying to get in that place where they can do this all the time. Now, my mission is not to be Dalai Lama. My mission is to be human with you, to walk with you, to do this process with you. And I want to be able to do this in the grocery store. I don't want to be on a mountain all the time. But I do want to be able to do it in the grocery store. I want to do it when I'm sitting next to you. I want to be able to do it when I'm with my kid. I want to do it at a funeral. I want to do it at the moment my son is getting married. This is the goal, is to say, I'm going to really allow this flow to come up rather than to be pushed down. Y'all understand this? Okay. Okay. The body. Uh-oh, wrong way. Hello. Oh, that may have been me. Okay, the body. The body this is my biggest strength. So this is actually how I started to learn to be intuitive, because I'm very attuned to my body. Anybody in here, empath in here, feels things in their body and they're like, oh my God, I can't block the world out? Okay. Being empathic, I feel things in my body, and when I was a kid, I used to think that I was sick all the time. I was like a hypochondriac. It was terrible. Nervous wreck all the time. And the reason that was because I was interpreting people's information all the time, and I thought it was mine. When you actually heal your own wounds, you no longer think it's yours. And then you can start to see what's somebody else's and what's not. Well, I need you to listen to your body. It's actually the compass of your life. And if you listen to this, you can figure out emotionally what's going on with you. There's a couple books that I recommend for this. Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life. There's Feelings Buried Alive. I can't remember who wrote that one. But that's another one. And they both, in the back of the index of their books, have these feelings mean these emotions. It's creepy. So left knee means you're insecure. Pay attention when you're insecure, your knee will get wiggly. Right knee, falling under authority. Shoulders, anybody get shoulder pain? Right? Gotta protect my heart. I have to do the shoulds. I don't want to feel what I really feel. Neck, it's belief systems. So I literally get like a cord in my neck. It hurts real bad. And I'll tell you what, if you come to one of my healing circles, God help you, they hurt like a bugger. Because when you push on them, and it's where the emotional trauma is, they hurt really, really bad. They're abnormal. So when you push on it, then the feeling starts to come through, and we'll talk about that. But the neck is belief systems. So if you have a belief system such as, people are so stupid, they don't really know what they're doing, I have to do it myself. You might feel pain in the neck. Okay, so there's lots of different things. I've recently even had some stuff in the brain, so now I can know, because I know the compartments of the brain, I know what's actually happening where the brain is processing. It's really cool. It's really neat stuff. And if anybody wants to test me on it, you're welcome. I always welcome tests on it, because it's a really cool way to kind of get in alignment. But you have to listen to your body and understand that it's trying to show you what's really going on. We, as a society, have taught ourselves not to tune in. Right? Facebook, cell phones, TV, busy, radio, all the time. Now, I'm not asking you to be a Zen Buddhist, for God's sake, because if you want to be human, I'm totally cool with that, because I am. But what I want you to do is I want you to slow down enough once in a while to go, what is hurting me? My hip. My left hip's been driving me nuts. Huh. Left side's your feminine side. Right side's your masculine side. My left hip, I'm afraid of moving forward. I don't know what I need to move forward. So it's receiving. Your hips are about moving forward. I'm blocking the receiving that I need to move forward in my life. It's really magical. So I know it sounds crazy, but if you apply this, you'll see. It actually is a direct alignment. And if you work with me, you'll see this. This is what I do. I'm listening constantly to what's going on in my body, and then I know where your emotions are trapped. And then I guide you into those spots. Staying in balance, it's a little problem. That's why I'm writing this book. Okay? Staying in balance is a key. Because if you're out of balance, you're actually probably avoiding something that emotionally needs to come through. So if you go back to this basic idea, your body is a pipe. If you're out of balance, you're stopping yourself from letting the energy through. So it might be in your mind, it might be in your body. You have to really let the emotions through. So if you're out of balance, those are probably avoidance patterns that you've created so you don't have to feel. Grounding, you have to center yourself. You have to get back in your body. So this is all about the disassociation, coming back in, really working on deep breathing and getting centered. And you have to use touch to breathe and feel. I'm looking at this going, oh, this is funny. You have to use touch and breathe and really work on feeling what you really have going on. So I just want to show you what it looks like, okay? Can I have you come up here? So this is something that you can do for your partner, for your friend. You can do this for whoever it is. You can really drop into this. This is your seat for a very special person. This is Lucinda. So what you would do is, I'll talk loud. To help yourself heal, you feel where the ache is in your body. Okay? So say it's in the heart. This is where your self-worth is. This is where the wounds are around forgiveness, feeling somebody harmed you, victim mentality, all of those kind of things. You would hold your hand on your heart and you would put pressure there. This is the cool thing. Energy follows intention. This has been proven in science. If you put the intention that I'm ready to heal this, you set your hand there, you deep breathe. Nicely done. So as you deep breathe, you're actually starting to get to what the problem is. So what I do, I literally lay in bed at night if I have something that's bothering me, and I'll push on it, and I'll say, I love you, Lisa. It's okay. So you talk kindly to the little girl, the little boy. And guess what? When love shines on a wound, guess what happens? Even me saying this, for some of you, will probably touch you. Because you'll hear me talking to the little girl or the little boy in you that's ready to finally let go. But you have to pay attention to it. Does that make sense? Like, right, with the child? You have to pay attention to the child to get it to acknowledge you. So you would breathe, set the intention that you're ready to let go, and you start talking kindly to it. Simple. Does anybody in here do that? Mm-hmm. Okay? So you have to learn it, though, isn't it? It's not a natural thing that we think about doing. So I remember the first way I figured this out was I would have heartache, and Tori would say, oh, honey. And she'd put her hand on my heart. And I was like, God, you're a miracle worker! What is this? And I'd start crying. I was like, you're a healer! She's like, huh? You're married. But what it really was I was starting to let go immediately because I felt the love on the wound. It's that simple. So deep breathing. Oh, and remember to let the story go. Okay. The environment. Oops. Well, I'm always doing the wrong way. The environment is a tough one because most of us don't know how to get out of the environments that are causing the wounds that are hurting us. So what we have to do is we have to find a conducive environment that allows us to heal. So I don't know about you guys, But what I used to do in the past that didn't work for me was I would want to work it out with the one that hurt me. Anybody else do that? And you're like, why do I keep doing that? Literally feels like you're running against a wall over and over and over, and you're like, God, you're such a jack. They're a problem. Every time I try to deal with them, they won't help me fix it. Well, usually, you guys got to remember that if somebody's wounded you, they wounded you because they have the problem, too. Most of us aren't intentionally trying to hurt each other. We just have a wound, and we don't know how to deal with the wounds, thus we project it out, and we continue, create this process of keep wounding other people. So if you really want to heal, you have to probably get out of the environment that's hurting you. Okay? Now this one was a hard one for me because I was like, oh my God, does that mean I have to leave relationships and I have to change my whole life and I have to fly off to Timbuktu? No. It means this is key. If you're writing this down, write this down. You have to look at what am I doing that is actually allowing this to happen to me? This is big. What am I doing that is allowing you to treat me like that? Because do you have any control over another person?
Nope.
Sadly, right? We've tried. But we don't. You have to change this within yourself. So say I have somebody who's yelling at me every day. If I'm standing there and they're yelling at me, what's my part?
You're staying there.
Right. And one thing that we know in research is people that are wounded stay stuck. People that are not wounded move. Okay? So I literally think of it like if a dragon's breathing fire on you, go to the side. Standing in the fire will just get you fried. And then you go, see, I'm strong. You're broken. You feel so shattered. Get out of the way. Nobody deserves to be treated inappropriately. And if you are, stop judging the person because they're a bad person for doing it. Just know they're wounded. Love them and move on. The cool part of this is that I feel so much better when I move on. I don't have to get stuck. I can feel love for those people because I don't want to not like anybody. Because if I hate or I dislike, every action causes a reaction. It causes me more suffering. So the goal is to say, I love you as you are. And I love that part of myself, right? Because one thing that we know is that what you have trapped inside you will mirror outside of you. So this idea that if you see people being mean, maybe grumpy, or having bad manners, or not paying their bills, it's probably because there's a part of you that's leaking as well. And so you're projecting it on them and saying they're bad for that. The reason we judge people is because it's a part of ourselves we don't want to know. That's why, like with us gay folk, one of the things we find in psychology is that people that judge gays usually have some kind of gender issues going on that they haven't been able to resolve. It's that simple. We all have this, right? And we all have something in us that we struggle with. We all have something that we're judging people for. So take that and just go, oh, I don't have to judge them anymore. What a blessing. I can have peace. And start realizing that you can love that in yourself. So to figure this one out for yourself, what you can do is make a list of everybody that you judge, that you hate, that you can't stand. And then you start getting to know those parts. Guess what? This is going and getting those fragmented pieces. This is how you do it. And then you integrate them and you realize, Lisa, you're okay being a bitch. You're okay. You don't have to always be nice. Lisa, you're okay if you make a mistake. That was such a hugie for me. I can fail. I can fumble. And it doesn't mean I'm doomed. The old me, if I would drop a microphone on the floor, I would have been done. Now I don't care. I could drop it and go, it's okay. Laugh at yourself. Be with yourself and love all those parts. So I mentioned the mirroring part. Triggers. Let's see. I'm actually going to... Can I use you, Kim, for a minute? Okay. Y'all know those people that drive you crazy? Right? And they're like, hey, I want to talk to you. I really like you a lot. You really like me. I like you a lot too. And they keep pushing you and pushing you and pushing you. Like, what happens? Annoyed. Annoyance. Annoyance is the best. Because guess what that means? Your stuff's coming up. Annoyance means Somebody has triggered your stuff. They have pulled it to the ceiling and it's ready to pop. But what do? Knock it off! I don't like you. Get away from me. I can't stand that girl. She drives me nuts. Ugh. Right? We do everything we possibly can do to not have to be connected. You need to look at what is triggering you, what's annoying you, what don't you want to deal with. It's the only way to heal. You will not heal if you keep trying to look at the problem and resolve it. This is that idea with the mind where you're trying to figure out why they're bad without experiencing it. You actually have an issue with that person because they're reminding you either of the wound you already had. So somebody hurt you in the past and they remind you of what was done to you. There's a part of yourself you don't want to know. Okay? So there's something in there that needs to percolate up, but you're trying to ignore it. This is awesome. Our brains are awesome. We're totally going in denial, so we don't have to know who we are. It's a classic coping strategy. But we're kind of done with the coping thing, right? There's a need for more love. That sounds so cliche, but I'm going to go with it. What happens is, because we block emotions in our body, we are actually blocking love from coming in. So, why would we do that? Anybody have an idea on that? Why would we block love? Huh?
Fear.
Huh? We think we're not worthy. We're scared of love. I'm going to challenge all you guys on this one. Anybody in here, don't raise your hand, you don't have to, but anybody in here who says, I don't really like touch? Guess what? The reason you don't like touch is because that was some kind of love that you didn't get. And so guess what you're doing? I don't like it. Okay? Or what about gifts? I did this one. Because I was always worried we were really poor when I was a kid. And so I was worried that I wouldn't get what I wanted on my birthdays. So I was one of those ones, I don't know anybody else, but where I'd say, I don't want a birthday. I remember making it so hard for poor Tori. In the beginning I was like, no parties. Don't do anything. Because I was terrified to feel that experience of, God, if I don't get what I want, I don't want to know that wound. See how this works? So triggers is the process of something eliciting the pain. You have to stop saying that the trigger is bad. As long as you're saying the trigger is bad, you will not be able to heal. Period. Because if you're looking at the trigger as the problem, you're not seeing the gift. The gift is the emotion that is coming up to heal. You must get love to that quickly. So say we have somebody named Bob and he's being a butthead to me and I'm like, Bob! And I'm like, okay, I'm triggered. I want to kill him. Okay, stop. Turn away from Bob. Say, Lisa, what is it inside you that you don't want to know? Feel it. Breathe into it. Set your hand on it. Oh my God. Oh, here's a good one. Ask yourself, where did I feel this before? This way you can start hearing the patterns. Now, if you hear it, don't obsess on the story. Just go, thank you. Thank you. So you bless the stories. Oh my God, my dad reminded me of that feeling. Oh my God, I remember when Mom said this to me. Just let that up and then let the story go. Thank you. And then cry. Feel it. Scream it. Does anybody feel out loud? Why do you think we hold it in? Okay. So funerals, I think, is a great example of this. We don't want anybody to know. Does anybody make noises like this? I think sometimes sappy music gets me. I'm like, because you don't want to cry out loud. You don't want to emote out loud. It's really important that you actually emote out loud. So one of the things that we have found that have really helped people heal is we make noises such as toning. Like, if you actually pay attention, you all have an ache in your heart. And if you listen to that ache in your heart and you gave it a voice, you would start to feel emotions coming up. Sometimes we have to scream. Sometimes in healing circles, what we're helping people to do is to learn to go to the scream. Because everything in their body is saying, don't scream. Because guess what? If you screamed, you'd realign with that wound that you're trying to not feel. So, like if your voice is getting really quiet, it's because it's a part of you that you're holding back. So if you can get that bold sound out of you, it's going to heal. Sometimes you have to look like a hot mess, right? We're all like, let's keep it all contained all the time. Well, do you think being the Wizard of Oz is useful? right? Where you're like, I am strong, right? This really powerful presence. But yet you're behind the gate, or the curtain back there, and you're pushing all these buttons and working really hard. Any of you exhausted? Bet you it's that. So if you want to change this, you have to put Oz away. You have to decide, I'm going to show up, I'm going to be a hot mess, and I'm going to say, I don't know what to do. I'm going to say, I'm going to figure out what to do. I'm going to go forward, and I'm going to find my way. And you got to let more love in. You just have to get more love in for you to evolve. Or you'll get stuck. I always watch themes, and I've had some themes this week. And one of the themes I'm seeing is, it's really awesome. There must be some kind of, like, spring equinox or something. But everybody's kind of getting to this place where they're feeling limited. I'm so bored. Ugh, life sucks. There's nothing enjoyable anymore. Nothing stimulating me. Guess what? You're in the birth canal. Isn't that cool? You're actually getting to the place where you have to decide, am I going to come out? Or am I going to sit in this stinky place and be stuck for the rest of my days? Now, a lot of people will suffer there for 10, 15 years. I don't recommend it. It causes lots of side effects. You'll start to get sick, you'll get ill, cancer, things like that. It's something not to do. So it's really important that you realize that you have to move forward. You have to, with your environment, the other thing is you have to create an environment that brings peace. That's why we had this picture drawn, that it's a place that you can walk and get to know yourself. This whole idea of walking and getting to know yourself, my friend Larry, I'll use you, he's very good about being in the moment and being out in nature. Nature actually is Mother Earth who's here to hold your suffering. Pull. That's why we say, go put your feet in the dirt and let it suck the caca out, right? It pulls that energy out. You have to be willing to go be in nature, to be one with nature, and she'll pull that suffering out. Anybody have like pee-pee epiphanies? You know that when you're in the toilet and you're like, oh my God, or in a shower, you're like, oh my God. I think that chicken soup for the soul, that's where that guy had his epiphany. He was like, oh my God. I was in the shower and I thought, if I put a quarter on the ceiling, I can manifest more. And then he ended up saying, I'm going to manifest $1 million. And then he did it, and holy crap, chicken soup for the soul. Made a bunch of money. This basic idea is when you're in water, it earths you. That's why people have awarenesses in the shower. So find an environment where you have water, where it's quiet, where you get away. The people I heal with are not the people I get triggered by. Okay? So I try to have certain people that I know how to contain themselves and handle themselves in a way that's honorable to me when I'm getting ready to go to my wound. And if they can't, I'm cool, I love them. I say, but I got to go to somebody else tomorrow. I don't keep going to those people that cause my wound because I need to step away and really have some peace. I've got to get in that. So make sure that when you're in the environment that you step away, that you shift that. And you should see some pretty big differences. So to close, what I want to talk about is how important it is to be in harmony. So this is where your thoughts, your feelings, your words, your actions, all are in alignment. So we know what it feels like to hear beautiful music. Feels good, right? And then there's music that's out of tune and you're like, You have to be in harmony. And if your thoughts and your feelings and your words are not, and actions are not in harmony, it's really your avoidance pattern of healing. And I want you to really start looking at this in deep detail. So start going, I think, Pammy, where are you, Pam? You had said this to me. It's like really driving me nuts that people are not in alignment. They're not saying what they mean. Their actions say something different than their words. This is really our own fear of knowing who we are. So start paying attention. When you say, I really love you, but you're really thinking, I want to kick your butt, there's a problem. We really need to get in alignment and say, if I'm angry, I'm angry. So stop pretending to your family or your friends that you're not angry. If you're angry, be angry. It's okay. Anger is a normal emotion. And if you actually suppress your anger, you suppress your will. This is why angry people have a tendency to look a bit lazy. They're not lazy. They're using all their energy to hold back their charge. So if you look at this with any emotion, if you say you can't be sad, then you're being strong. Any of you all ever notice that you start to get grumpy with people? And you're like, oh my God, that's not me. Have you ever said that? The reason that's happening is because you are the person who's trying to stay stuck and not evolve. And so that anger is starting to bubble up. It's starting to come through and you're like, oh my God, that's not what I want to be. But it's going to come out. Carl Jung said, if you don't use your shadow, it will use you. So if you really want to evolve and shift, then you have to go look at those parts of yourself you don't know. Remember that when you're doing this, you have to value yourself and others equally. This is probably the #1 rule that has changed my life, is that I realized that other people have to matter as much as I do. Now, I had it backwards. I was putting other people first. Some of us do that, and some of us do the opposite. The reason we do that is to protect ourselves. But for this to really shift, you have to make a decision to say, I count. So if you're somebody who tolerates to be late, you're tolerating because you're afraid to stand in your truth. Show up. And stop telling people that I can't. Maybe next time, right? Sure, I'll buy you everything you want. Let me give you my soul. Stop. Stop giving what you don't have to give. If you feel you hit a point in your life where you're running on empty, don't give away something you don't have. Don't say, I'll help you when you don't have it. Right there. The idea of yourself, if you honor who you are, the universe is going to honor you. Because that's all the universe wants for you, is you to be true to yourself and true to others. If you don't think about how your actions affect others, that's going to have a problem. Because others matter. You can't think that you can do something totally narcissistic and think that's not going to affect the world. You have to think about how your actions affect the world. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be true to your path. So don't get caught in that one. You have to be true to your path. But you do have to move forward and understand that how does my essence impact the world? Am I constantly cussing 24 hours a day so that I'm offending people and making them feel icky and they want to curl inward? Well, that's probably not the best. Is that because you don't want to hold your energy because you're angry? So that doesn't mean that cussing's bad, but it means that we got to get some balance with that. But it shouldn't be too much. Any of those patterns. But pay attention to that and make sure that you're honoring yourself and honor others equally. If you do this, you're stepping up to the line of healing. This is the place of balance. And when you do that, you will be rewarded. Blessings will come. Remember to talk kindly to the inner child. So literally, I say, Lisa, it's okay, honey. I know you're tired. So when I'm feeling tired, I say that to myself. Before I came in here, I said, you got this, girl. I'm so proud of you. You're showing up. Show up. See, it makes me want to cry. So that's the blessing. Trust yourself. And finally, if you don't love and value the inner child, she won't work for you. Ask her to come and align with you. And to really just put closing to this, I want all of you to be who you're meant to be. I don't want you to waste one more second. And if there's anything that we can do to help you, and that doesn't always have to cost money. If you just need to come into Journeys, you just need to sit down and have tea or coffee. If you just need to know you got a friend, we got a community that will love to support you. If you just want to ask some questions, call me and say, Lisa, can I ask you some questions? This isn't about trying to get business. This is about waking up with other people who are ready to wake up. So we welcome you and thank you tonight for coming. And if there's anything we can do, we've got flyers in the back for different things we do. And I'm here to answer any questions, but thank you for having me. Any specific questions I can ask, stuck spots that anybody gets into, that they want a little help? Yeah, Francis.
What does pin in the right hip mean?
Right hip is your masculine side, and that would be your ability to move forward in a doer way. So you have an action step that needs to take place that you are having a caution around.
With the microphone, can you repeat the question?
Oh, she said, did you all hear what she said, or do you need me to repeat it? She asked for the right hip.
We can.
Okay. What did she?
I was just wondering, what would you say to somebody who has believed their whole life that love is the truth, but then they realize that they're surrounded by angry people all the time? And they're not in denial because they're constantly looking at that. But what does that say? When somebody who believes in love and works to be a very loving person, but within their outside environment is chaos and anger.
Okay. Well, if you kind of listen to that, there's a wound around that. I don't know if I want to help you guys see a teachable moment with this, but there's a wound in the energy around that. There's some limiting belief, and I'm going to tune in intuitively with that. Okay, just a second here. That part is believing that you have to do it all yourself, that you have to love through the problem. Sometimes you have to realize that you just need to be loved. It's not a job. And if you're stepping into a situation like that, or you're living in a situation like that, that's where you have to say, I'm burning myself out trying to give love to people who don't want to receive love. One thing that we know about healing is that people have to have a choice. And so, in a sense, I used to make this mistake and I don't do it anymore. If you try to give a gift of love and somebody isn't willing to receive that, it actually scares them. And so, to sit there and keep trying to be loved with people that are afraid that don't want it isn't useful. So like for me, I try to only do things where people can find me. I put opportunities out where people can find the work I do, and then my practice feels that way. I don't really advertise or those things because I don't want to market to get somebody in that wants me to prove myself to them. I want somebody who's ready, and then I'll give them the gift. There's no work in that. It's work if I'm trying to say, will you receive my love? For God's sake, why won't you receive my love? That's daunting. That will wound you. So guess, if we're looking at the idea of self and other, you're forgetting the self.
Thank you.
Yeah? Other questions? Yeah?
The whole part about letting go, that's hard for me. And I like to know, I know the power in letting go. I know it in my head. I just don't know how to get it. I don't know how to do it, and I'm a very strong person, and I see when you're talking tonight, I see because I'm a single mom, and because I have to be strong because nobody else is going to carry me or help me. But I don't want to always be strong. I want to be that person who just say, I just want to fall to pieces, but nobody's going to pick me up. And so with that, I've been hearing lately, I feel like life has been saying, Dee, you need to let go, you need to let go, and I just don't know how to begin that.
Okay. So the first step in that is,
Question?
she's just saying, I don't know how to let go. I've had to be strong for everybody. The basic thing is, I want to look at some of the little tweaking here, okay? One is it's ego to think that I have to be strong for others. Because if you're saying that, that's the belief that you are the only one. I always like to try to avoid anything that says I have to be the one, okay? Anything. That's religions or anything. There is no one way. Infinite possibilities, that's our goal. So with that, what you want to do is go, oh yeah, everybody's capable. Principle one. Give that back and say, I love them as they are. I have no need to change them. And then this whole concept of letting go, the hard part is getting the courage to make the decision to let go. Letting go is not hard. Right? If you actually pay attention, anytime you've let go, it's a moment and you let go, right? You watch a sad movie, you hear a sad song, you start to let go. The letting go process is really not the hard part. It's the decision to say, I'm willing to let life unfold. Control is what we do because we're afraid to let life unfold. Okay? So what you want for you to personally get to this place is you're going to want to make a decision and a commitment to yourself to say, I no longer want to control my life. I'm going to allow. And the only reason we control is fear. Period. So the reason we control our life and say it has to look a certain way is that idea that you're trying to say, I can't feel the emotions that come up. Like with you, I get this feeling of just being really tired. So you need to drop into the exhaustion. So you might get that feeling of exhaustion. Your goal is to go, this is literally what we do. We go, I'm so tired. I'm so tired. And as you fall into it, you'll go, oh my God, I'm tired. And you'll start to honor it, and you'll fall into it, and you'll start to process it. You see how that's working it through? You're finally going into the truth instead of saying, I'm strong, I can do it. I don't want to do it, but I'm strong. So that's lying to yourself. You can't heal if you're lying to yourself. Yeah. Francis.
Website spelled incorrectly. Does it have an N for journeys?
Oh, yeah. It does have one. Thank you for seeing that, Francis. Yeah, journeys.net. I think we actually switched a picture, too, on there. We have made a few boo-boos. Obviously, last-minute stuff is not always the best. Other questions? Anybody else? Trust that most of the time, this is one of the big things that I like to remind people, the way you came into the world, you have it 100% correct. Your life, your mission. I came into this world knowing I needed to be loving and kind, and I was supposed to touch the world in some way. The way I was taught to do it was to people please. That was the other half that wasn't right. Whatever you have, those seeds that are inside you that are saying you want more, those are right. Listen to them. Take the time to see what that is. And then know that you probably need some tweaking, because the map that you were born into probably had some thinking errors. So it's the basic idea. The reason we struggle in life is because what's probably happening is it would be the idea of like going to get a math test, and then somebody taught you how to do the algebraic questions wrong. And now you're trying to go create math. You can't. You'll get stuck, you'll get limited, you'll get, in those places. So I don't want you to believe that you don't know how to do math because somebody taught you incorrectly how to do math. Go figure out a great math teacher. Go find a great counselor. Go find a great class. Go find a spiritual teaching that touches you. If anybody has a longing inside them, like I have this thing, like I want to know all religions. It's really important to me. I think all religions have value. I really feel blessed by that. And so for me, what I'm doing is we are creating a day at Journeys that's going to be, we'll have a different spiritual teacher from Jehovah's Witness to Mormons to Buddhists or whatever that is. And we're going to have them come in and speak and teach us what they believe. Because that's important to me. So you start seeking what you love. And as you do this, you'll start to know more and more of yourself. You don't have to do it all overnight. You just got to seek. Realize that you have a gift for you. But make sure that you're present in the moment. Make sure you're integrating the experiences, and make sure that you can apply the principles. Because a lot of us seek and seek and seek, but you never actually apply the principle and put it to action. If you don't, you're in a suffering loop. Right back to the same problem. Any other questions? If you have anything privately you want to ask me specifically to your own heart, I'll catch you afterwards. Thank you so much for coming. I think Kevin's going to come up. Yeah, Deb?
You did awesome. That was the answer part.
Oh,
If you want to know how you did awesome.
Wow, huh? Hey, I like the gift part thing. How about you guys? I was one like that too. I didn't want gifts. So anyway, I want to thank Lisa, of course. What a opportunity, what a blessing, what a way to start off Seed Speaker. And I really appreciate that. Appreciate and thank Lucinda for your help on that. Kimberly, thank you. Look forward to it next month. Tori, thank you as always. Pam, my wife, thank you so much. Thanks for putting up with me. And really, thank you guys. I mean, it's the support, it's the love, it's the community of being here. If it wasn't for you guys being here, it would just be us talking. So it's very special, and I really appreciate you coming out and the support. So thank you so much. Yeah, don't forget the tables in the back have all kinds of brochures. Kimberly's talk is on there also, so look forward to it, and have a safe evening.
Thank you.